What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of information that we got in this week's TWAB. A lot of devs jumped in on the TWAB and communicated directly to the community and gave their thoughts and opinions and their plans and goals that they have for the game going forward. So there's a lot of information to get through in this one. If you guys do enjoy the video, please be sure to drop a like, and if you aren't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So to kick things off, Justin Truman, a production director on Destiny, jumped in to let everybody know what Bungie's plans are going forward and their opinions on the current state of the game. So Justin says, "Hey everyone, if you're like me, you're playing a lot more video games now than you did last month. In these uncertain times, we want Destiny to be a satisfying escape rather than a frustrating grind." He goes on to mention that there's been a growing list of concerns in the game, from trials cheaters to the seasonal model, the balance between rewards that you earn versus the ones that you buy from Eververse. Again, he reiterates the fact that Bungie is watching closely, paying attention to feedback, and that the community managers are relaying that information to everyone at Bungie, whose job it is to make sure that these things get implemented into the game. He does also mention the fact that all the employees at Bungie are currently working at home, which is making the current situation a little bit more difficult than it should be. But he does also throw in the fact that nothing in Destiny, regardless of the situation, is as easy as flipping a switch, which, if you follow this channel, you know I've mentioned many times. A lot of these things are a process and they do take time. So then he goes on to structure the next few TWABs that we'll be getting, and this TWAB in particular is going to focus on trials and their war against cheaters. You can expect me to drop another TWAB video next week when they'll be discussing their seasonal model and how they plan on improving the structure going forward, including changes that they have planned for bounties going forward. So within this first section of Trials and Tribulations, they basically go over all the feedback that's been received from the players, going over a bunch of issues, including rewards and obviously cheaters. They do give their goals for the mode as a whole, and they also go into details talking about how they want this mode to be experienced by all players of different skill levels. In particular, they mention that resetting tickets should not be the most effective way to earn Trials gear, and that rewards should show players that the further you progress, the better the payout, which is something that I've spoken about at length on this channel. Everyone in the game plays Destiny to earn loot, and everyone should be able to play an activity and have something to show for it. But at the end of the day, there needs to be that distinction between a player who is more casual and a player who does choose to venture into the hardcore end game. Now, I know that causes a lot of friction between people, but if there isn't that line of distinction between the two, then that removes all incentive for people to bother to invest into these systems later on into the end game. And I think it needs to be clear that what I'm asking for, and I believe what Bungie is pushing for, is not to create things that are overpowered or must-have items that you're going to give to these players, but instead give more unique items, whether it's aesthetically or creating something with an extra mod slot, which you'll see Bungie mentions going forward. So Bungie does list a few issues in particular. Problem number one that they give is token rewards that incentivize players to farm to 3 wins and reset their card rather than going all the way to the lighthouse. The solution that they have planned is that in Season 11, they're going to create a token payout milestone at 3, 5, and 7 wins that will give players larger chunks of tokens, plus allowing bonus token passages to increase these payouts. If you do go flawless, you'll end up generating a more significant token payout, which should help to incentivize players that are trying to farm for tokens to head straight to the lighthouse rather than farming lower cards, seeing as how with this new system, you will not receive that many tokens if you do choose to stay at the lower ranks. Problem number 2 that they pitch is that Trials is unrewarding for players who are stuck at 1 to 2 wins, and the solution that they give is to create a weekly bounty that will encourage those players to participate every week and won't require any wins. Once you redeem this bounty, you'll be able to get the same item reward that comes from the 3 win passage, allowing you to unlock the engram for purchase every single week. And this is a great reward because at the end of the day, not everyone's going to make it to the lighthouse, not everyone's going to be able to play Trials and win, but you still want players to feel like they can jump in there and earn something and have something to show for it. I don't think that that's a bad compromise at all, and I hope that once this thing is implemented, a lot of those players who know that they're probably not as skilled in PvP will still feel encouraged to jump in and earn something and show that they participated in Trials of Osiris. Final problem that Bungie puts out here is that Trials feels unrewarding compared to other endgame activities. Now, the solution that they give is to inject more chances to earn those masterworking materials, including masterworking and infusion materials that will come from 3, 5, and 7 wins. And this is planned to drop in Season 11. They do also go on to mention that they're looking into possibly adding a new material focused farming card in Season 12. So similar to the bonus token passage that you can pick up now, they're thinking about adding a specific card that you can pick up that will possibly give you more of those materials that you're grinding for, that you can use to masterwork your gear, weapons, and other things like that. I think this is dope. I think they should definitely do something like this, because ultimately at the end of the day, Trials of Osiris is meant to be a pinnacle activity within the game, and similar to other pinnacle activities which can also use some improvement, Trials of Osiris should reward players for continuing to reach the lighthouse and continuing to earn wins. So all the problems and solutions that they mention within this small section are meant to be short-term fixes. They do also go into the fact that they are planning some more long-term fixes, such as the question of what about adept weapons. And I'm going to read you exactly what they said here so you guys can get an idea of what they have planned to do with adept weapons going forward. So they say that we're currently investigating a new form of flawless award weapons for a future season. They might not have the same name, but these weapons would have some differences in order to set them apart. Right now, we're currently looking at giving these weapons the ability to replace the weapon mod slot with an adept mod slot, the name may change, that can accept custom build mods in addition to the normal list of weapon mods. All of this is subject to change as we continue to develop, but wanted to give you an early look. We'll share more details in the future. So now going forward in the TWAB, we already have all the information about some of the problems that they know about within Trials in terms of the gameplay, the loot, the incentive to go flawless, things like that. But now the more concerning part that most people want to talk about is cheaters. So in the next section, Destiny Engineering Director David Aldridge takes over, and he basically gives us a whole bunch of information about cheating, what they plan on doing to combat cheating going forward, and what they've been doing so far. He starts off by giving a few stats and mentions that cheating in Destiny 2 has gone up roughly 50% since January. He also mentions that before Season of Worthy launch, they were averaging about 656 bans per week, and that number has nearly tripled since Season of Worthy has started, going up to 2,133 punishments per week. He also mentions some of the precautions that they took before the season, such as partnering with Valve to integrate the Steam Datagram Relay, which some of you may have heard about, where Steam basically implemented a system to completely eliminate DDoS attacks on their platform. Bungie mentions that system has not been completely perfect, but for the most part DDoSing is completely extinct. They do go on to mention that they understand the frustration with players and the current state of Trials with the amount of cheaters that are inhabiting the game mode, and he does go on to specifically mention the cheats that they're currently actively combating and continuing to work on eliminating going forward. So those include memory poking attacks to gain gameplay advantages. For example, the infinite ammo, infinite ability energy, and infinite respawn and teleport cheats, which a lot of us have seen at this point funny clips of. There's also the aimbot cheat, the wall hack cheat, the lag switching cheat, and on consoles to a certain extent, the DDoSing and lag switching cheats. Again, if you guys are jumping forward in the video, I will have the 12 link down below so you can read all of this information for yourselves. So now they go into not just the descriptions of the types of cheating, but actually go into the plans of what they want to do to combat these different types of cheating going forward. So Bungie's first plan of action is to shift more people to help within this workspace. So now they're going to have more people analyzing cheater reports, developments into their anti-cheat system, developing and testing new ban rules. And as always, whenever Bungie talks about anti-cheats, or any company in particular talks about anti-cheats, they can't go into the specifics about it, obviously for reasons that include cheaters getting onto their information and being able to counter them a lot more effectively. So this whole section is not going to include the specific down to the detail ways that they're going to combat cheating, but you will get an idea of how all this stuff will work. So Bungie mentions that one of their biggest focuses is on a rapid response system where they can get cheaters out of the pools a lot more quickly than they currently are able to. And obviously this is going to be a key factor in reducing the value of cheating. So hopefully less and less people will see that they won't be able to cheat as easily as they currently are in Destiny 2. Hopefully less people will continue to use them and buy them in the future. One of the biggest factors I think that they mentioned here, which hopefully gets implemented a lot sooner rather than later, is a key policy that they're changing where fired teammates of cheaters will now be banned along with those cheaters. So they go on to say specifically, we now reserve the right to restrict or ban players who have benefited from cheating even if they didn't cheat themselves. This includes scenarios where players group up with or provide account information to a guide or carry service which then cheats on their behalf. Bungie goes on to say that we want you to find new friends out there, but be sure that they have your trust before you go. If you LFG your way into a fire team with a cheater, get out and report them. If you ride them to a flawless, then the ban hammer will come for you as well. And that's a good thing that Bungie's planning on doing there, because quite frankly, there are a lot of people out there who do pay for these cheating services, and they do go under the radar as not being cheaters because they're not using the hacks themselves, but still they're still part of the problem. And I know a lot of people will go on to say, well, they're only using cheats because other things in the game aren't currently working properly or aren't currently incentivizing them to play legit, such as loot incentive, as we've spoken about on this channel. But at the end of the day, cheating is not the solution. And as I always try to encourage on this channel, if you have something to say about the game, just express yourself. If you guys feel like you have any type of feedback that you want to give on the game, definitely comment down below. I'm always active on Twitter, always writing things and opinion pieces about Destiny 2. So if you guys want to follow me on Twitter and have discussions over there, you can do that as well. Now moving forward, this is a potential idea that Bungie's pitching here. And I do want you guys to pay close attention to this one, because this one may have a lot of repercussions, and Bungie does mention that they realize that. But I do want you to pay close attention and really think about what they're trying to do here with this idea that is not guaranteed to be placed into the game. So they go on to say, we're interested in your thoughts on this. What if you had to have about 100 hours of play on an account to participate in any trials match where a ticket with more than 4 wins was at stake on either side? Increasing the time it takes for a new account to become trials ready increases the power of our ban hammer, since cheaters can always create a new dummy account, but it also adds a barrier to honest, law-abiding PvPers that just want to check trials out. The question is, would the reduction in cheaters be worth the increased barrier to get your T1000 aim skill buddy who's running behind on light to join your fire team? So basically what Bungie is saying there is, what if they had a system where you couldn't join trials unless you had a set amount of playtime within Destiny before you were actively able to join matches and participate in the activity? I definitely think it's something interesting to think about, but also it does bring up that issue of new people who jump on the game and just want to jump straight into activities just like Trials of Osiris. Maybe there is a way to add some type of playtime restriction to Trials of Osiris, where new players could have to put in some time before they could jump in, that's reasonable for all players to at least understand what Bungie's attempting to do here. If you guys like this idea, or if you don't like this idea, comment down below. So now coming down to the end of this discussion about cheating in trials, Bungie does take the time to respond to a lot of the feedback and a lot of the narratives that have been going on about Destiny's security and their anti-cheat overall. So the first one that they mention is the most popular one, that Destiny does not have an anti-cheat. So they go on to say that Destiny does have an anti-cheat that consists of custom security codes and a third-party security product used by many other AAA games. They also say that they have a team of senior security engineers working on anti-cheat. Anti-cheat isn't a yes or no thing, it's a constellation of possible mitigations, and they say that they're always looking to add new stars to their constellation to strengthen the existing ones. So for those who don't understand that, there is an anti-cheat system in the game. They are using apparently a popular third-party one that many other games use. And as I've seen with many other games that deal with cheating, anti-cheat is something that's constantly evolving and constantly changing to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of cheaters and new cheats that are always being introduced. So as Bungie says, they relate it to a constellation. They're looking to add more stars into their constellation, add more teeth to their anti-cheat system, which is something I believe that they will do going forward. So the next one that they mention is Destiny relies on player reports or humans to identify cheaters. And they respond by saying that the vast majority of punishments issued come from automated detection. They use player reports to help identify emerging threats. All automated detections are reviewed and verified by a human before punishment to minimize the risk of false positives. Now, I don't know if too many people remember this, but there was a time where people would be wrongfully banned within Destiny. And a lot of people would be complaining on Twitter to the community managers saying that they were wrongfully banned because they got dropped from a match, whether it was due to internet connection or they quit out of a game, things like that. So Bungie did introduce a human element to this process to allow for less of those false positives to get through the system. The last point that they do mention is that Destiny should use Valve anti-cheat, or the VAC system. Now, this is something you've probably heard a lot of other popular streamers and content creators mention, that Bungie needs to use the VAC system. So Bungie says that Destiny does utilize some of the VAC security's features, and that they do have plans to utilize more. They do say that Bungie's security team and the Valve security team meet regularly to discuss the latest attacks and mitigations. So hopefully in some of those meetings they are discussing ways and potential ways to implement new systems that can combat cheating using their Valve anti-cheat system to be able to detect a lot of these people who do receive back bans a lot more directly and quickly. So To end this whole conversation of cheating up, Bungie does go on to talk about some of the decisions that they've made going into trials and some that they might reconsider changing going forward. For example, a lot of people have mentioned that trials should have been behind a paywall, and Bungie acknowledges that that may have been a mistake not putting trials behind a paywall. There's a lot of people out there who do use those free accounts and recycle those accounts in order to continue to use cheats within the game currently. So by putting trials behind a paywall, you'll be more proactively canceling out a lot of those potential cheaters from the ecosystem. They do say that they're not planning on changing this and throwing trials behind a paywall during the season of Worthy, but they will consider reevaluating the access requirements in future seasons to be able to participate in trials. Do keep in mind that if you are a person who is asking for trials to be put behind a paywall, that the population within trials is going to be significantly cut down due to the fact that a lot of the free-to-play players will not have to pay to be able to play trials. But at the same time, it is something that could really help combat a lot of those free account cheaters. I want to quote Bungie here as they close out, and they do say, quote, "We want that experience to be available," talking about trials, "to as many people as possible. But if we're forced to choose, we will choose for trials to be a sacred space, even if that means fewer people can play. Our overall goal with Destiny security is to provide a competitive, fair ecosystem where cheaters are rarely seen and are rapidly ejected from the game. We're not there right now, and we're increasing the priority. We'll keep you posted." So that's basically everything to do with the TWAB, talking about trials, talking about cheaters, talking about rewards. Next week's TWAB is going to go into the bounty grinds and the seasonal model, and Bungie's plans on improving all of that going forward. There is a lot more information in this TWAB. Bungie does talk about the Guardian's Heart charity initiative that they had recently. They do mention a lot of the upcoming streams, so if you guys haven't already supported that, please be sure to check that out and also donate. There's also a mention of a ghost that we were supposed to receive on this season's season pass, but we didn't receive, so Bungie will be giving that to us in season 12. And finally, going through the last bit of information that's on the TWAB, if you guys are still here, there is information talking about a lot of the errors that are currently known about and that are being worked on. So if you are still suffering from watercress, newt, anteater, beaver, rabbit, they are still working on those things, and a lot of other known issues about Guardian games. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. There was a lot of information packed into it. This was the first time I actually did a TWAB breakdown. I do plan on doing the next few where they cover a lot of those major systems that they plan on reworking. So again, as always, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to drop a like, drop comments down below, let me know what you guys think. And also, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Trying to get close to that first 100 milestone. I appreciate you guys being here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.